Ecuadorians across the country have taken to the streets to protest against the government of Lenin Moreno. Polls underway in Suriname for crucial general elections. Voting hours were extended until 9 p.m. local time. The African Union announced it hopes to raise $1 million for its COVID-19 response fund on Africa Day. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is from the South. I'm Ernesto Dominguez. Ecuadorians across the country have taken to the streets to protest against the government of Lenin Moreno. In Quito, workers' unions and teachers gathered near the presidential palace to reject economic measures recently imposed by the government. Protesters say the coronavirus crisis has only affected lower and middle-income families, while the rich has been left mostly unfazed. They also rejected the government's neoliberal policies and vowed to continue protesting until their demands are met.
The president is lying to the country. He says we are the first country to invest heavily in the health sector to fight COVID-19, but it is a lie. He speaks of education, but has laid off more than 6,000 teachers and is cutting their salaries. Meanwhile, large companies will pay nothing during the crisis. This is a government that only takes care of big businesses, bankers, and the International Monetary Fund. We are all against these neoliberal measures. We will continue mobilizing until justice is achieved. The working class shouldn't have to carry the burden of the crisis.
Later, protesters were repressed by police forces as they tried to reach the presidential palace. Hundreds of people in Santo Domingo Square were blocked by police vehicles and faced tear gas. Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley has advised public servants that the salary will be paid in full should the government introduce forced savings to rebound from the effects of COVID-19.
And believe you me, every public servant and every person who is paid by government will receive their full salary package. The majority of it by far will be in cash. But we are asking some to look at bonds that will carry interest rates of 5%. Why? Because at the end of the day, the government is going to have to be the one driving the Capital Works program in Barbados, dealing with water, dealing with roads, dealing with cleaning the country, dealing with building gabions, dealing with building schools that are the subject of environmental problems every week, or other facilities that government has that literally are in bad need of repair.
Trinidad and Tobago is now the 8th Caribbean country to be declared virus-free with 0 active cases of COVID-19. On Friday, the Ministry of Health disclosed that the last active patient has been discharged from the hospital. This brings the total number of recoveries to 108 and 8 deaths. The other Caribbean nations to have 0 active cases include St. Lucia, Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis, Belize, Anguilla, Montserrat, and San Bartolome. In Suriname, parliamentary elections for the term 2020-2025 are underway, proceeding under strict health measures due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Voting hours were extended until 9 p.m. local time as 623 polling stations authorized for the day opened their doors at 7 a.m. Authorities lifted the partial confinement imposed to fight the novel coronavirus, and voters have been lining up in rows, maintaining a distance of 1.5 meters between each other. After the representatives of the National Assembly are elected, they will in turn elect president and vice president. And the second of 5 Iranian oil tankers carrying fuel to Venezuela has officially entered the nation's territorial waters. The ship, known as Forest, was met by Venezuelan Navy patrol ships north to Margarita Island and is headed to a refinery in the port of El Palito. The third ship, Petunia, is expected to arrive on May 26. This fleet that set sail from Iran is carrying around 1.5 million barrels of gasoline as the Bolivarian nation suffers from fuel shortages caused by U.S. sanctions. Meanwhile, the U.S. government, which has heavily sanctioned Iran as well, has said it is monitoring the convoy, while Caracas and Tehran have warned the White House not to interfere with the ships in any way. Early on Monday, the first Iranian tanker, the Fortune, arrived at the El Palito refinery and was received by Oil Minister Tarek Al-Aissami. Iranian oil tankers have started to arrive in Venezuela in what became a significant show of solidarity between two nations besieged by U.S. economic sanctions. All the operations by Venezuela's Strategic Operational Command in international waters went by successfully and in peace. We have more in this report.
The sunset highlighted the most anticipated moment. This marked a breaking point in geopolitics. Venezuelan ships entered international waters to meet the first of 5 oil tankers hailing from Iran that set sail 3 weeks ago, carrying fuel for the Venezuelan people. But beyond breaking the U.S. blockade, this image of the Fortune ship and the ocean patrol ship Yeguana writes a new page in the history of defending international law. This is how the mission to escort the tankers began.
Alert, Fortune tanker. This is Ocean Patrol, ship Yeguana of Venezuelan Navy. We are 60 nautical miles outside our territorial waters. We are here to accompany you to port in the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
The Patriots manning this ship left behind Venezuela on Friday, May 22nd, headed to meet the Iranian ships. As such, this operation for dignity began. Day 2 of the mission. The young crew prepare for a long day. Their mission just starting.
We are on our way to meet the Iranian tanker and escort them to Margarita Island.
We are in the right position to meet the tanker.
Expectations rose as time went by. 5 hours later, the first Iranian ship appeared.
We have visual contact with the Fortune tanker. We are informing the Navy commanders that we have spotted the ship.
Peace won. Now, the ships made their way to Venezuela.
We are showing the world that we are not alone. U.S. Venezuelans are making allies around the world and are showing that a U.S. blockade can be broken.
This is a peace mission. This is not meant to threaten anyone. We are exercising our rights as a free and sovereign country. We have a right to carry out commercial and financial activities with our fellow nations, to cooperate without threatening anyone.
International waters were left behind. Multilateralism won the day. At around 8 p.m., after 26 hours at sea, they entered Venezuelan jurisdiction.
In the name of our President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces and all the Venezuelan people, we thank you for the support of the Republic of Iran that has been traveling with its 3 tankers transporting fuel for the Venezuelan people who are affected by the economic blockade imposed by the United States government.
Your message well received.
The captain of the first Iranian oil tanker to enter Venezuela thanked the support and show of friendship by the government.
And the government?
This escort mission is still awaiting the rest of the oil tankers arriving to Venezuela, which are all expected to be here over the next 10 days.
More stories coming up after this short break, so don't wait. Welcome back to From the South. The World Health Organization has passed clinical trials of the anti-malaria drug hydroxychloroquine in COVID-19 patients, adding that the drug, notably endorsed by U.S. President Donald Trump, has raised safety concerns. At the moment, the drug's safety data is being reviewed by a monitoring board. WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus told reporters that the drug has been tested as part of a program aimed at tackling the COVID-19 pandemic. The move comes after WHO regarded British medical journal The Lancet published a study on the side effects of hydroxychloroquine, highlighting the higher mortality rate among COVID-19 patients that were treated with it. The WHO has previously advised against the widespread use of the drug in the treatment of COVID-19, arguing that it should be reserved solely for clinical trials. However, it has been actively promoted by the U.S. president, who even underwent a 2-week treatment with hydroxychloroquine as a preventive measure against the coronavirus.
The executive group has implemented a temporary pause of the hydroxychloroquine arm within the Solidarity trial, while the safety data is reviewed by the Data Safety Monitoring Board. The other arms of the trial are continuing. In many countries, it has shown that after a certain number of cases, after a certain threshold, it moves like a bushfire, exponential. It did it in China, in Wuhan. It did it in many European countries. And it's doing it now as you said, in Brazil. It really moves fast. That's why we need to do everything to slow it. And the slowing is mainly in the social measures, social distancing measures that we take. And they have to be as really aggressive as possible to give us.
To the U.S., where the Trump administration's initiative to test nursing home residents and staff members for the novel coronavirus appears to have failed, as half of all states will not fulfill the goal. The initiative was launched by the White House on May 11. State governors were requested to target nursing homes and retirement facilities within 14 days to stop the spread of COVID-19. But several authorities have argued against the plan, stating that the logistics budget and human resources needed were too high to fulfill the task in the required 2-week period, while others even claim whether the proposal was a good use of time and money. The United States has the highest number of COVID-19 cases in the world, with over 100,000 deaths registered. And Spain is moving forward with the easing of COVID-19 restrictions as Phase 1 and 2 are being implemented across the country. Health Minister Salvador Illa has announced that 53% of the population will be under Phase 1 conditions, while the remaining 47% will be put under Phase 2. The Health Minister also recalled that a period of 14 days would define whether regions can move from one phase to the next one. Madrid and Barcelona, the main hotspots of COVID-19 in Spain, are slowly returning to normal as social gathering culture shows, along with the opening of bars, parks, and beaches are allowed. Spain has recorded over 57,000 COVID-19 cases and a death toll of over 28,000. Greece has restarted the gastronomic and transport sectors as part of the government's arrangements for summer tourism season. Regular ferry services to the Greek islands, along with the reopening of restaurants and bars, were started on Monday. But passengers and occupancy limits have been imposed to avoid new COVID-19 cases. Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis stated that the tourism season would officially begin on June 15, opening the borders for tourists from all the regions. Nonetheless, no testing for COVID-19 and no mandatory quarantine will be imposed on new arrivals. The tourism sector is a pillar of Greece's economy, accounting for more than 10% of their GDP. Chinese President Xi Jinping has praised the good job done by local authorities in the fight against COVID-19. Xi was speaking during a panel discussions with delegates from Hubei province at the annual session of the National People's Congress, China's top legislature. This epidemic is a test of our grassroots governance system and the level of its capacity. It further highlights the role of our grassroots units such as neighborhood offices, community centers, town-level and village-level committees, epidemic prevention and control rallies and work on two fronts. One is the medical front featuring the role of medics. Another is the management front featuring the role of community centers, town-level and village-level committees. All of them have done a good job. We need to look into our grassroots governance work, look at the success, then reinforce them, find out the deficiencies, then improve them. The lead researchers at the Wuhan Institute of Virology has criticized disinformation and conspiracy theories surrounding the origins of COVID-19, expressing her dismay over the politicization of sciences and calling for greater international cooperation and transparency.
我认为这个现在就是把政治这个给科学搅在一起了，就把科学政治化了，这个是非常遗憾的一件事情。我觉得全世界的科学家都不希望看到目前，因为我前面已经说过，传染病研究是一定是要开放、透明、合作的，国际合作会为我们全人类的这种新发传染病会提供很好的一个技术支撑，所以这是为全人类服务的，所以我们觉得非常的遗憾。
Vietnam has passed 5 weeks in a row with no new local COVID-19 cases, while active cases figures stand at less than 60. Since the outbreak started, health authorities have reported a total number of 325 cases, out of which 267 have already recovered. But while 58 patients remain in healthcare facilities, the death toll has stayed at 0. The Vietnamese government shut down its northern border in January with COVID-19 cases increased sharply in China and imposed a quarantine period at the end of March. Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc has highlighted that the government will implement new policies to boost the economy and help the most affected people for the rest of 2020.
But the COVID-19 outbreak in the US and Europe.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe announced on Monday the end of the state of emergency across the country. Today, the state of emergency will be lifted for the entire nation. Recently, new infection cases have fallen below 50 for the entire nation, and while it was once nearly 10,000 hospitalized cases, that has now fallen below 2,000. Our lifting criteria, which has been set on extremely strict level compared to the world, has been met nationwide. We're taking one last break now, but stay with us for more. Welcome back to From the South. The Palestinian government is ending its 2-month lockdown in the occupied West Bank. Prime Minister Mohammed Shtayyeh announced Monday. This comes after a steady decline in new COVID-19 cases.
تعود جميع الوزارات والهيئات الرسمية.
All ministries and official bodies return to work regularly starting from Wednesday morning, while maintaining full safety measures in each of the ministries. Shops, commercial and industrial facilities and various institutions are allowed to operate normally starting from Tuesday morning, while maintaining safety procedures. Mosques and churches will open for dawn prayers tomorrow on Tuesday, so that we can give them an opportunity to disinfect, provided that worshippers come with their own face mask and prayer mats, as well as maintaining social distances between them, and as long as ablution is not done in the mosque's premises.
The African Union has announced it hopes to raise $1 million for its COVID-19 response fund on Africa Day. Established by the chairperson of the AU Commission, Moussa Faki Mahamat, in March, the COVID-19 Response Fund aims to strengthen regional response to COVID-19 and mitigates its socio-economic and humanitarian impact. The AU statement reads, "This Africa Day, May 25, all African people of African descent and friends of Africa are encouraged to give a little to the fund. Contributions can be made in any currency and will be automatically converted into US dollars. The number of confirmed COVID-19 cases across the continent rose to 107,412 as for Sunday."
However, I'd like to emphasize that
Ministers of Health have discussed
And the African Union Commission organized a virtual conference on Monday to give impetus to their stated goal of silencing the guns in Africa, which is the AU's theme for 2020. The regional body also seeks to strengthen collaborative efforts among member states, regional economic communities, civil society organizations, and the private sector to take ownership of the provisions contained in the Silencing the Guns initiative. The African Day session of the AU opened up on Monday with a speech by Moussa Faki Mahamat, who recalled that despite significant progress, Africa continues to be affected by poverty and violence.
It's unfortunate. There are all kinds of powers who like to denigrate China, who like to put China in a hole, who are even probably jealous of China's rise. So that is to be expected. However, it is for us to act together timelessly in a transparent manner, and it is transparency that dispels all kinds of defamation. Truth, transparency, openness, governance are the undergirds of stability and progress and friendship.
As every year, this May 25th is an ideal occasion to celebrate the process of decolonization that led the African continent to have its own presence in the Concert of Nations. Africa Day is, without a doubt, an appropriate moment to show the world how diverse, plural, and exuberant are the nations of the region of humanity, full of joyful and creative people.
This is how the territories where different hominid species that gave rise to mankind look today. The continent that is the cradle of humanity shows these natural and dreamlike landscapes where life explodes with thousands of colors, unique and wild animals, incredible ecosystems, great ethnic richness. Our planet's great continent can show these heavenly views: immense deserts, virgin beaches, uninhabited islands, and colorful springs. Africa is the world's largest producer of diamonds, and 3,000 different ethnic groups and tribes live in its lands. Yet, for many, this remains an unknown and forgotten continent. Africa is home to the world's poorest countries and the highest rates of infant mortality, violence, conflict, lack of education, and poor health. Millions of its people are chronically hungry and have no access to clean water, and thousands of its children are used as soldiers, slaves, or in prostitution. The United Nations Economic Commission for Africa warns that the coronavirus pandemic could kill some 300,000 Africans and drive 29 million into extreme poverty. It is sad that Africa is the continent of death and life, where the beauty of its landscape and the ignominy of sadness are best shown. Experts warn that as long as the current political and economic order continues, where a few people consume almost everything, the colonial heritage of the continent will have no end and will continue to finance the opulence of the rich nation. Many agree that Africa should be looked upon with reverence for the humility that owes it a great debt of gratitude.
Amilcar Lopez da Costa Cabral was a busy Guinean and Cape Verdean agricultural engineer. He was also an intellectual poet, a theoretician, revolutionary political organizer, nationalist diplomat, and one of the Africa's foremost anti-colonial leaders. He was assassinated on 20 January 1973, 8 months before Guinea-Bissau's unilateral declaration of independence. Lopez da Costa Cabral was also deeply influenced by Marxism and became an inspiration to revolutionary socialist and national independence movements worldwide.
L'indépendance, pourquoi faire? Pour nous, d'abord, pour être nous-mêmes, pour être des hommes africains.
The cultural roots of the African continent are present in almost all regions of the world. The Caribbean has been a clear example. As part of the celebration for Africa Day, several Cuban artists dedicated a song to this land. With this performance and have come to the end of this news brief, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Ernesto Dominguez. Thank you for watching.